All right, I thought I would go through the Unit 11 quiz just because I know there was some questions on there and see if that doesn't help you out as well. So the first one says name the space figure. So the first thing I can see, and I tried to pull up the quiz but also try and write over here for you. If you look at this shape in the middle, this is your base, this is 6, and this is 4. So I automatically know it's rectangular. Many of you thought it was square. And then I can see from these pieces, from each of these faces, those are triangles, so that would be a rectangular pyramid. Okay, going on to the next one, it says again, name the space figure from here. Sorry, I had a Zoom meeting. Let's get onto that. Okay, so if I take a look at this one, each one of these faces here are rectangles. So that means I quickly know this is going to be a prism. And then I'm looking at the top and the bottom figures, which are here and here. Notice when you fold them, they're congruent and they're parallel to one another. So this would be a triangular prism. Okay, moving on to the next one, it wants us to use Euler's formula. Euler's formula is on your formula sheet. I'm going to go grab mine, and it is in the upper left corner box, and it says Euler's formula. So if I look at that formula, it says F plus V equals E plus 2. In this particular case, I'm looking for the faces. That must mean I've been given the vertices. I have a 16. The edges is 37. So we've got F plus 16 is equal to 39. I subtract the 16 and we end up with the number of faces as 23. Okay, moving on to question number 4. See if we can fit that one in here. So on number 4, ultimately I'm looking for the surface area, and I'm just going to put that formula over here. It is 4 pi r squared. But in order to find that, I need to know what the radius is, and I've been given the volume. So I'm going to start with my volume formula, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. I'm going to substitute in that 3,000 for the volume. And I need to go solve for the radius, so ultimately I can substitute that in over here. First of all, I can see my pi's would divide out. I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. Yeah, that gives me 9,000 equals 4 r cubed. I'm going to divide by 4. I get 2,250 equals r cubed, and now I need to go take the cube root of both sides. So I'm finding that special button on my calculator, and I know yours is a little bit different, but again, if you go 3 and then type in the radical with the x on the outside, 2250, I end up with a radius of approximately 13.1. Now I can finish this up. We've got 4 pi, 13.1, or again, we can use that answer button to make it a little bit more accurate. So 4 pi, answer squared, and we end up with, to the nearest whole number, 2158. Okay, moving on to question number 5. So question 5, we have to find the surface area. So I see the top part of that prism, which is 12 by 4, which is 48. Then the next piece I see is 12 by 6, which is 72. The next rectangle that I see is 12 by 4, which is a 48, and then again another 12 by 6, which is 72. So that means I found all of those rectangular faces. Now I've got kind of the left and right. So in other words, I had all of this in here. Now I need to go find these two. If you notice, this is 4 by 6 and this one is 4 by 6. So that means I've got 4 times 6 and another 4 times 6. So finally, I'm going to add all those up. And we come up with 348. And I'm going to double check that that's right. Okay, going back to where we were, and I did make a mistake. I went back and checked it. I came up with 288 instead. Okay, moving on to question number 6. We're looking for the surface area of a sphere. So our formula is 4 pi r squared. I have a diameter of 16, which means I have a radius of 8. And notice it says leave it in terms of pi. And we end up with 256 pi. Okay, the next one, I'm looking for the slant height. So I'm going to try and pull out what I visualize as the slant height. This is the slant height, which is what I'm looking for. I have the overall height, which is 4, and here's where many of you goofed. I'm going from the very center of that pyramid to the edge, so that's actually 1.5. So plugging into Pythagorean's theorem and taking the square root, and I end up with 4.3. Okay, next question. I'm looking for the lateral area. Again, I'm going to go write down that formula for lateral area of a pyramid. It is 1/2 PL. So P stands for the perimeter. Let's go ahead and pull out that base. You've got 43 on all of the sides. So that means our perimeter would be 4 times 43, and we don't have the slant height. So similar to the one above, we need to use Pythagorean's theorem. We're looking for the slant height. Our overall height is 25. The distance from here to here is half of that 43, which would be 21.5. So again, we can go and plug into Pythagorean's theorem. So 25 squared plus 21.5 squared, taking the square root, I ultimately end up with 32.97 for the slant height. So finally, we can take that and plug that in here. I've got 0.5, or 1/2, times 4 times 43, and I'm just going to use that answer button. And we get 2,836. And let me double check our answer for that one. Okay, moving on to question number 9. We're looking for the surface area of the cylinder. Again, I'm going to go write down that formula. It is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. And in this particular problem, I believe we've been given everything. We've got a radius of 7. We have a height of 15. And again, a radius of 7, and it says leave it in terms of pi. So I'm going to put that pi off to the side, and I'm going to do 2 times 7 times 15. I get 210. Then over here, I'm going to do 2 times 7 squared. I get 98. And then finally, we can add those together, and we end up with 308 pi. Okay, number 10, we're asked to find the slant height, and this is with the cone, and I've been given the lateral area. So let's write down the formula for a lateral area of a cone. It is pi RL is equal to the lateral area. In this particular case, I've been given the lateral area. It is 103 pi. I've got pi here, and I have a radius of 3.7, and I'm looking for L. So I'm back to some Algebra 1. I need to solve for L. I'm going to divide by 3.7 pi. So those pi's cancel out. And I don't know why I put 3.7. It's actually 37. So 103 divided by 37. And I end up with a slant height of 2.8. Okay, number 11, we're looking for the surface area, which is really similar to number 9. So again, same formula here. I've got a radius of 4 and a height of 3, and again, a radius of 4. So we've got 24 pi plus 32 pi, and finally we end up with 56 pi, but I believe this one says take it to a decimal. Oops, and I'm off the screen. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and type in 56 pi, and we get 176 or 175.9. Okay, moving on to question number 12. It wants to know the surface area of the pyramid. So let's go write down our formula for surface area of a pyramid. It is 1/2 pi L plus big B. And P and L both refer to the base. In this case, it's a square base. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that square base out where all of the sides are 11. If I'm looking for the perimeter, I'm looking for the distance around. That would be 4 times 11. If you go back and look at the problem, they gave us the slant height as 15. And again, big B is the area of this base, which would be 11 times 11. Plugging on all of that into my calculator, we should end up with 451. Okay, last one, number 13. Oh, not the last one. Let's see if we can squeeze 13 in on here. Again, we're looking for surface area. That is 4 pi r squared. We've got our radius again in here is 2. And on 13, it wants us to take it to the nearest whole number, which ends up being 50. Okay, let's go look at 14. This is the one that probably gave people the biggest issue. So we have a prism. So if you go and look at your formula for prism, surface area is perimeter times height plus 2 big B. Again, the P and the big B refer to the base, which in this case, the base is a pentagon. I've got 4 here, and then I've got this piece in here was labeled to be 2. So to find the perimeter of that pentagon, I've got 5 times 4. If you go back and look at the height of the prism, it is 5. So that alone gives me 100. Then I need to find the area of this base. When we did this, we did the number of triangles, which in this case would be 5 times 1/2. And then I need the area of just this triangle here, which is the 1/2, the base times the height. My base is 4, my height is 2. When I plug that into my calculator, I end up with 40. So my final answer is 140. Hopefully this will help you out, because certainly you're going to see some more questions similar to this on your test. If you have any more questions, please feel free to get on Zoom.